What's up guys, welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. Today we are continuing the series where I build pre-con decks for all of the new Marvel commanders. Today we are building Captain America. This guy's extremely powerful. He has some solid board control with his throw ability, and then with his catch ability we're able to cheat the equip cost of something like a Colossal Hammer, making Captain America a 14/14. That's just not okay. Additionally, there's some weird scenarios we can get into where we can draw our entire deck and deal a ton of damage to the table, causing us to win the game. Kind of crazy in a budget list, and we will go over how to do that later. But for right now, let's shout out those patrons. Irrelevant, you rock. If you guys want a free $15, you can click on that whatnot link in the description down below. And then additionally, if you guys want to like, comment, and subscribe if you are enjoying the content, I really appreciate it and it helps me out. Now, let's get into what this deck is trying to do. We are going to run this in a Voltron-esque strategy, but honestly, that's not going to be our only win con here. I love running a lot of creatures that can generate a board state whenever we're doing these Voltron strategies, because historically, Voltron strategies have been very weak to edict effects. So running something like an Anim Packow that just generates a board state, and then additionally we can just throw equipment on her if we don't have Captain America on the battlefield, that's just going to be very useful, and it's going to give us other win cons to the deck that aren't exactly, viable if we just did the Voltron strategy. Another thing that leaned me into going with this go wide sub theme is it's just going to give us consistent win cons like Dragon Throne of Tarkir. Now we slam this on the battlefield for 4 mana, we go ahead and auto equip it to our commander because of his catch ability, and then we tap him for 2 mana. So that's 6 mana, Craterhoof Behemoth that gives our entire board plus 14/14, assuming he has that Colossal Hammer. That's just not going to be okay, and it's going to kill all of our opponents. Additionally, this is what's going to tie the deck together. We're going to pair auto equippers that make our equip cost free, then we're going to add equipment to the list, and then we're going to add stuff like Lotus Ring and then Curiosity effects. Now we're using stuff like Lotus Ring, equipping it for free, sacrificing our fodder to generate mana. We're using the mana to go ahead and activate our captain's ability, and then he's dealing damage to our opponents, which is allowing us to draw more cards. And that's kind of where it all comes together. We get board control, we get card advantage, and we get mana. Those are the 3 things you need for a powerful commander. So if you guys want to see the rest of this deck list, let's get into it. Wait, one last thing. Don't forget to leave a comment down below and like the video if you guys want to see a non-budget version or even a CEDH version of this deck, because I think it can get there. Now let's get into the video. Let's kick it off by getting right into the equipment we are going to add into this deck. Colossal Hammer is a no-brainer here. We can equip it using his ability, and then we're just hitting people for 14 damage in the face. Scythe of the Wretched is also really cool tech that I found for this guy. What we're going to do is we're going to activate his ability, kill 3 creatures, and then Scythe of the Wretched will bring all 3 of those creatures to our side of the battlefield. Pretty messed up. We're removing their board state while stealing their creatures. I'm also a huge fan of Sunforger here. The thing that sucks about this card is you always have to re-equip it after you activate its ability. But with a deck where we're running so many ways to equip our equipment for free, this just becomes a free instant speed tutor that fetches our interaction. So we're going to be able to interact with our opponents very efficiently when this is on the battlefield. Key to the Vault is going to dig us deep whenever we deal combat damage and allow us to cast some of our spells for free, so you've got to love that. Swift of Boots is just some added protection in the deck. I like Bladehold War Whip as well. Not only is this going to give our commander double strike, but additionally it does lower the equip cost of all of our other equipment. The reason this usually doesn't make it into my equipment style decks is because you're never equipping this for 5 mana, but with Captain's catch ability, it's going to be very easy for us to equip it, and now he's got double strike, making him a very lethal threat. Chainsaw is just a super fun card I wanted to try out here. One, we're going to be murdering a lot of creatures with his throw ability. This is going to throw a ton of rev counters on our Chainsaw. Additionally, it's a lightning bolt whenever it enters the battlefield, so it's kind of very flexible in the sense that it's removal, and then it's also just going to make Captain America massive. I also like Tanzin Goto's Maul here. It is a red creature, so it's going to give him +3/+3 and trample. Very useful in these Voltron strategies. You don't want to get chump blocked. Dissection Tool is also very cool in this deck. Remember, we do have that go wide strategy, so we're going to have plenty of creatures to sacrifice. That way we can equip this to Captain America America for free, and then we're going to pay that 3 mana to unequip it, and we get to 0.5 damage at whatever we want. This is going to be a super efficient way to get rid of any of our opponent's creatures. Gavel of the Righteous is another way to buff Captain America up while giving him double strike. Double strike is pretty notable here because we are on curiosity effects, so whenever we're dealing damage twice in a turn, we're kind of drawing double the cards, and then additionally, whenever we throw our shield, we're drawing a ton of cards. We're just trying to get card advantage while smashing our opponents in the face. Mask of Memories is going to be a solid source of card advantage. We're also on Lotus Ring. I really like this card here, but you have to be careful. Lotus Ring gives the ability to the creature. This means if the creature entered the battlefield that turn, or you created the token that turn, it still has Summoning Sickness, and you won't be able to utilize its ability until you untap with it next turn. Something that's really cool about this though is we have several ways in the deck to create creature tokens with haste. So there is a way we can generate an insane amount of mana with these free equippers and our haste tokens. I'll go over in more detail later on in the deck tech how this can result in us drawing our entire deck and dealing an infinite amount of damage. Embercleave is also going to be featured in this deck. Remember, we do have that go wide strategy, so that's going to be very effective at lowering the cost of Embercleave. And then again, we're getting double strike and buffing our commander up pretty good. We additionally get trample. All super impactful and meaningful keywords in a Voltron strategy. Dragon Throne of Tarkir, again, this is going to be a win con in the deck. Make sure we get Captain America massive, equip him with Dragon Throne of Tarkir, tap it, our board gets massive. It's kind of like a Craterhoof Behemoth in a equipment deck. Masterworks of Ingenuity can enter the battlefield as a copy of any equipment on the battlefield, so that's just going to be super flexible. Curiosity, Tandem Lookout, and Ophidium Eye are all cards that allow us to draw cards whenever our creature deals damage to one of our opponents. Notably, Captain America's throw ability is going to be incredibly efficient at triggering all of these effects. All we need is a 3 CMC equipment, unequip it for 3 mana, deal 1 damage to each of our opponents, and then we're drawing 3 cards. That kind of sounds like 3 mana draw 3 cards to me, which is very powerful. Taewakin is also very effective in this strategy. This is going to make it to where his throw ability can do insane damage, especially if we have something like a Lotus Ring on the battlefield. Now we can sacrifice all of our tokens for a ton of mana. We can easily pump a lot of mana into Taewakin's ability. Then all we have to do is activate Captain America's throw ability to do a ton of damage to all of our opponents. It's also just super solid to give Captain America's throw ability more killing power while getting some solid card advantage. It's way easier to kill the creatures you want whenever you're able to manipulate her X ability to make it their exact toughness. Now you're getting card advantage whenever you're killing your opponent's board. We're also definitely going to run Kellen here. This guy's just super flexible in this deck. It can find all of our curiosity effects, any equipment that we want. We definitely want Colossal Hammer, right? And then additionally, he has some added utility with the go wide strategy. If we need to buff our board up a little bit, we just throw all of our equipment on Kellen, and then he also has double strike himself, so he can hit like a truck. Let's move on to our cost reducers. We have Danitha, Bladegraph Aspirant, and Headmaster. These are going to be very useful because not only do they lower the cost of our equipments, and there is a little bit of an equipment storm strategy whenever we're casting equipment, we're drawing cards. We'll go over that later. Additionally, it's going to lower the cost of our equips. This means that we can effectively get our equip cost to 0 with enough of these effects on the battlefield. Zerda is a good example of this. If we have Zerda on the battlefield, it lowers all of our equip cost by 2, but it can't reduce that cost to 0. That doesn't mean that we can't pair it with our Bladegraph Aspirant and make it to where a 3 cost equipment is free to equip, which is where we want to be, right? Mostly because of that Lotus Ring, right? If we can make Lotus Ring equip for free, we're cooking. Fighter class is super useful as well. Not only does it tutor for our equipment card, but additionally we can level it up to lower our equip cost, and we honestly don't want to level it up to its 3rd level, but we can in a pinch and it might be handy. Aster, Bearer of Blades, is going to dig deep and find us an equipment we need, and then additionally he makes it to where all of our equipment has equip 1. This means with any of our cost reducing effects, this makes it to where all of our equipment is free to equip. Very useful. Arden's just a cool way to move around our equipment, so we're going to include him in the deck. Pure Steel Paladin is going to allow us to not only draw cards whenever we're casting equipment or whenever equipment enters the battlefield more specifically. Additionally, it makes all the equipment you control have equip 0, so now again it's free to equip all of our equipment. Brunor does something very similar, but he's not as broken. He's going to give us a little bit of a buff depending on how many equipment we have equipped to a certain creature. creature, and then additionally he's going to make it to where the first time you try to equip something, you can equip it for free. So now whenever you pair that with Captain America's catch ability, you get to equip 2 equipments to him for free each turn. Pretty useful. Saram's just a solid card draw engine along with Joyra Weatherlight Captain. Again, this is kind of that equipment storm strategy I'm talking about, and we are running a fair bit of legendaries, so Joyra kind of has dual purpose there in this deck. Whirlwind of Thought, whenever we cast a non-creature spell, we get to draw a card. We're also playing Forging the Tyrant Sword. This is going to give us a little bit of ramp in the early game, and then when it gets to its 3rd chapter, we can tutor up an equipment to our hand. Very useful. Akiri is going to be amazing protection in this deck, in addition to a solid way to draw cards. Armored Skyhunter is super busted here. This guy digs deep, finds us an equipment card, we throw it onto the battlefield for free, and then equip it to our commander for free. So we could literally start combat, attack, and then out of nowhere kill one of our opponents just because Colossal Hammer happened to be on the top 6 cards of our library. Cool is just a solid way to protect our key creatures in this deck. Now whenever an equipped creature dies, it just gets returned to our hand instead. Kaikar Wind's Fury kind of synergizes with the fact that we want to go wide, and then additionally we can sacrifice those white spirits we're creating whenever we're casting those non-creature spells to add some mana to our mana pool. This one's just kind of very useful here. Third Path Iconoclast, again casting non-creature spells, we're creating those 1/1 soldiers, and Impakal, Krinko, and Horn of Gondor. These are just cards you can't ignore. Leave them on the battlefield for an extended amount of time, and they're just going to generate a bigger and bigger board state that eventually will run you over. We're also on stuff like Elemental Mastery, Valduk, Keeper of Flame, and Locust God. What's notable about all 3 of these is they actually generate creature tokens with haste. This is where Lotus Ring comes into play and starts becoming really, really broken. Now the one it's least broken with is Valduk, Keeper of Flames, right? We attack, if he has a lot of equipment on him, he generates a big army, we sacrifice that big army for mana, and then we're able to activate Captain America a couple times to deal some damage. Elemental Mastery gets a little bit more broken because if we have something like, I don't know, Colossal Hammer on Captain America, generating 14 1/1s with haste that we can then sacrifice with Lotus Ring to generate over 42 mana will probably just get us there and cause us to win the game with the right cards on the battlefield. The one that does kind of cause us to go infinite though is the Locust God, but we're going to need a little bit of setup. We need a Curiosity effect, we need to be able to equip all of our equipment for free, and then we just need an equipment that is at least 3 CMC. What's going to happen here is we're going to activate Captain America's throw ability. He's going to throw his shield or whatever equipment you have at all 3 of our opponents. That's going to cause us to draw 3 cards due to our Curiosity effects. Then we're going to get 3 of those locusts that have haste. Now we can sacrifice all 3 of those locusts with Lotus Ring to generate 9 mana. From there, since we still have a free equip cost, we can equip the equipment that we threw at all of our opponents back onto Captain America and then throw it again, still floating 6 mana. This will again draw us 3 more cards and float 9 additional mana. This is kind of the scenario where we're drawing our entire deck, generating as much mana as we need to win the game, and then eventually we're going to find the cards we need to kill our opponents before we deck ourselves. Something like a Tae Wakeen with haste is going to make sure we get that done. We can also just keep digging until we find something like Elemental Mastery, Dragon Throne of Tarkir, and then again Colossal Hammer. This is going to make it to where we have a massive board state and just swing out for the win. But anyway, we're also throwing Shirakai Genesis Engine in the deck. I kind of just like this here. It's doing what we want. We're generating a board state, we're getting some solid card advantage, and then we can just crew this guy up to deal massive damage, especially if we give him double strike. Something to note about vehicles and equipment though, the second they stop being a creature, all the equipment is going to fall off. That's going to be something to think about, but honestly don't think about it too hard because most of the equipment in this deck are going to be equipping to our creatures for free. He's definitely not an obvious include, but I like what he's doing in this deck. Invasion of Segovia kind of seems solid as well, since we are going with this go wide strategy. Just being able to give all of our non-creature spells convoke is going to make casting some of these equipment a lot easier. Last but not least, I did include Rise and Shine. Maybe we don't have any creatures on the battlefield or someone just wiped the entire board, but we've got a lot of equipment and artifacts left on the battlefield. Boom, Rise and Shine now instantly became our game winner. That's going to do it for the deck tech, guys. Remember, leave a comment and like the video if you guys want to see a non-budget version. With that being said, let's shout out those patrons. Irrelevant, Excessum, Chicken Salad, Preator, The Professional Heal, you guys rock. I hope this helped everybody in your deck building endeavors, and I will see you guys in the next one.